Alright guys, in this video I'm going to try to explain how to min-max your damage as Arcane, talk about all the modifiers, and what you should be looking for when dishing out damage. So, we're all, for the most part, playing Sun Fury now, mostly because of the Phoenix that you get during your Surge, and the Arcane Soul window after your Surge. And on top of that, the two extra modifiers you get, Burden and Glorious, which buffs your Blast and Barrages. So this season, they added a new PvP talent called Netherflux, which replaces Touch of Magi, which completely, if you play this build, it completely changes the way you press your buttons and do your rotation. But this is essentially what it comes down to is you want to try to flux and then barrage into your flux with as many modifiers up as possible because barrage is your biggest hitting spell. There were many ways to do this combo initially. You could flux ether missiles, you could flux blast, which you still could do in certain scenarios. But for the most part, now they changed the way the missiles interaction works with flux, so you never want to flux missiles. For the most part, you want to just be flux barraging and have as many barrage modifiers up as possible. So if you don't know what a modifier is, it's a buff that you gain that you can proc, which is going to buff the damage of your barrage. So we can talk about all the barrage modifiers here. I have a notepad full of them. So these are everything that buff your barrage. You have Burden of Power, which is 20% increased damage on barrage or blast. You have Glorious Incandescence, which is 20% increased damage on barrage. Intuition, 50% increased damage on barrage. Nether Precision, 20% increased damage on blast or barrage. 30% if you're using the Layside talent. Arcane Harmony, up to 50% damage on barrage if you have 10 stacks. And Arcane Debilitation, which is an external source of modifier because this is like a debuff that you put on your target. And then you have Resonance. If enemies are stacked, your barrage is going to do more damage, up to 4 targets. And then obviously you have your main Go CDs like Surge and Evo. Evo gives you over 10k int. Surge is overall 15% increased damage on all your spells. And then obviously the Netherflux is the button you press to modify your barrage, which is 65% increased damage. And then you have other little procs like Impetus, 10% overall, Spellfire Spheres, 10% overall, and Insignia proc. So these are all of your modifiers. You're mostly trying to get as many of these modifiers up as possible and then flux barrage. That is your goal. So we're going to go over each modifier one by one. So again, like I said, we're playing Sun Fury now, and you are playing around Burden of Power. This, every 6 barrages or blast you do, you build a charge. Sorry, every barrage or blast you do, you build a charge. And once you get the 6 stacks of the charge, it procs the Burden, which is going to make your next blast or barrage do 20% increased damage. And once you consume the Burden, it will always turn into a Glorious Incandescence, which is going to buff your barrage by 20% as well. But the nice thing about this one is it refunds your charges. So if you barrage with the Glorious, you're going to keep your 4 charges, your 4 stacks. Same with Intuition. This one has a 5% chance to proc from random arcane spells, and it's going to buff your barrage by not 20, but 50% increased damage and also refund your charges. I'm going to go over some basic stuff here. If you don't know your builders and spenders, you have charges right here. You build charges by using any of your spells. It can either be, my charges are right here, by the way, Arcane Explosion. It could be Arcane Blast. I'm going to spend my charges there. It could be missiles. Missiles are going to give you charges as well if you're using the high voltage talent, which I recommend. Use your missiles. And then once you get to 4 stacks, it's like your combo points. You barrage to spend them. You can also use Orb. Orb gives you 1 charge and then an additional charge per target it hits. So 1 charge plus 3 targets, boom, that's 4 charges, right? Orb is going to be your best way to getting charges. Also, if you flux, that immediately gives you 4 charges as well. So everything gives you charges and you spend by barraging. Also, every time you barrage, you're getting these tempo stacks. Each stack of tempo gives you 2% haste. I have a weak roll for it, so that's 2% haste. I'll use it again. 2 stacks, 4%, 6%, 8%, 10% haste. And this lasts for like 10 seconds. Or 11 seconds or something, and it's nice to keep this refreshed as much as possible so you are hasted up. You have like a mini icy veins permanently. It is a little bit harder to keep 100% uptime on this now because sometimes you have to be a little patient with your modifiers before you barrage because you're trying to wait for that big barrage, right? So you're building combo points and you're spending it, and you're trying to get as many modifiers as best possible. And again, the nice thing about Glorious and Intuition is that it refunds you charges. So right here, I'm gonna blast the Burden, and then if I Flux Barrage this Intuition Glorious, I still have my charges, so you can barrage there. So far we've gone over Burden, which turns into a Glorious when consumed. Oh, I want to show you the Burden here, the weak aura. This tracks how close you are to a Burden. So right here's every 6 blasts or barrages, procs the Burden. Okay, let me orb here for charges. I'm gonna hard cast the blast to consume the Burden. I will now barrage the Glorious Incandescence. Keep my stacks, and again here it shows me how close I am to the Burden. Right here, if one more blaster barrage, I proc the Burden. I will consume the Burden with a Palm Blast here, and then I will barrage the Glorious. Again, the Burden will always turn into a Glorious. So again, right here, one more. There's the Burden. I will consume the Burden with a Blast. Turns into a Glorious. Next thing, so we've gone over Burden into Glorious. Burden buffs your blast or barrage by 20%, and then it'll turn into a Glorious, which buffs your barrage by 20% and refunds charges. So we also talked about Intuition, which buffs your barrage by 50%. It has a 5% chance to proc. The nice thing about this is it's a bit RNG, right? It's 5% chance from any arcane spells. It could be Orb, it could be Explosion. But with this weak roll right here, this shows you how close you are to a guaranteed Intuition. So this is like a bad luck protection. Right there, it procced a little early. But every 11 spells, if your Intuition doesn't proc by then, you will guarantee get an Intuition. So this is the Intuition tracker. So right here, one more spell, boom, there's the Intuition. So this allows you to actually play around your Intuition and not fully rely on RNG and line it up with a Burden or a Glorious. So this weak is really good. By the way, all my weak wares will be available in my Discord. The link is down below. It is all public. So if you want this entire weak ware package, it is there. But your goal is to play around. So it's one more away from Intuition, one more away from the thing, Burden. So I'll Palm Blast here. And now I have both these procs. And then this is like a decent one to Flux Barrage because I had Harmonies there too. Another modifier is Harmony. Each time a missile tick connects to an enemy, it gives you 5% increased damage on your next barrage, stacking up to 10 times. So right here, I'm going to use one missile. A full missile channel, a normal missile is going to get you to 8 stacks. Or I don't know why I went only to 7 there, but full missile, 8 stacks. So that's another barrage modifier. And then you also have Nether Precision, which is tied to your missiles as well. If you use your missiles, it gives you 2 stacks of Nether Precision. This is going to buff your next blaster barrage. Next 2 blaster barrages, that's 1, that's 2, by 30%. 20 by default, 30 if you're using Blade Jerker. Again, I missile right there. There's another position, 1 stack, 2 stacks. So again, you're just trying to get as many of these modifiers up, Burden, Glorious, Intuition, Harmonies, and Nether Precision, to then line up a big Nether Flux Barrage. And obviously you have your main cooldowns, like your Evo, which is going to give you over 10k intellect. And then when you get your Surge off, during that Surge window, it's 15% increased damage on everything during that entire Surge, which also summons a Phoenix, which cranks out tons of damage with you. And right here, for example, I have 10 stacks of Harmony and Gloria, so this is okay to Flux Barrage. And again, here, my Intuition procs, so this right here would be good to Flux Barrage too, because you have 8 stacks Harmony, you have the Intuition, and you had Nether Precisions there. So this is kind of the gist of it. This is like the basics of Arcane and how your buttons kind of interact with each other. And then, so now that you understand the basics of modifiers, we can go over a little bit more advanced stuff like double dipping. So what double dipping is, so as I explained earlier, Flux is going to make your next spell that connects to the target take 65% more damage. It's supposed to be for one spell, but there's different combos you can do where you can get double the value out of it. During the preseason, you could channel a missile into a barrage or missiles into a barrage palm blast. You could triple dip essentially, but they changed it so that you can't do that anymore, because if you flux and missiles, the missiles will instantly consume the flux. Like literally only the first 2 ticks of missiles is going to benefit from flux, which is why it's so bad to missiles with flux. But there are ways to double dip it with your barrage and blast. So I'll pull up the notepad again here. So the first way to double dip is going to be if you have a glorious or an intuition. Like I mentioned earlier, this is a glorious proc. I'm going to barrage. See how you keep your charges because it refunds 4 charges. That's the exact same way intuition works. It's if you have an intuition proc and you barrage, you're going to keep your charges. So this is what this is going to allow you to do is you can flux, barrage this proc, and because barrage has travel time, it's going to be in the air. You can barrage, and then you can palm blast while it's in the air. Again, you don't want to be blasting with 0 charges, right? Because it's going to do like no damage. And you also don't want to be hard casting blast with low charges because the cast time is longer as well. But because when you barrage with the glorious or an intuition and it refunds your charges, that allows you to palm 4 charge blast while the barrage is in the air, and you will get the double dip of benefit from the flux right there. It's super good to do. This is how you do tons of damage, especially if you're playing Lay Drinker, because this is going to make your blast echo for 70% of its damage. So if you crit like a 4 mil blast, it's going to echo for like another 2.4 mil or something like that. So that's how you do your big one-shots. Another way to double dip is when you have a burden. So we went over this earlier. This shows how close you are to a burden. So when you have a burden, like I mentioned earlier, this will always turn into a glorious after, right? When you consume the burden, it'll always turn into a glorious. So it's actually generally good to blast the burden so that way you keep your charges, because the burden won't refund your charges. It's only glorious and intuition. So it's good to hard cast. This is only a combo you do if you're actually able to hard cast and free cast. But if you get the burden, you flux, hard cast a blast, and chain into a barrage. You pre-queue up the barrage, and you'll get the benefit of a hard cast burden into an instant glorious barrage into the flux. So it's getting double the value. So right here, I'm gonna missiles for nether precision. I'm gonna flux, hard cast a blast, and spam barrage. So right there, my burden blast and glorious barrage were benefited by flux. So that's another way to double dip. Again, you can only do this if you can free cast, but this is actually the biggest burst window you can do ever, because you're getting double the modifiers, which is burden and glorious, into another modifier, which is getting double dipped by the other 2. So that's if you have Evo up with Surge as well, and you do this combo, that you could literally like 70-0 somebody, or 80-0 somebody if the stars align and you get crits. Like I mentioned earlier, you have your Surge, right? And when you Surge, you summon a Phoenix. Keep in mind the direction you are facing when your Surge cast finishes is going to determine which way your Phoenix is facing. And your Phoenix is stationary. It doesn't rotate or turn to follow your enemy. So if your enemy goes behind the Phoenix, it's going to be hitting nothing. So keep in mind the placement of your Phoenix is important. And also when your Surge ends, you get Soul, which is a spammable barrage. You used to just spam barrage during this window, but now you want to weave in missiles as well during that Soul, so that way you're getting as much clear cast benefit as possible, because every barrage you do during your soul window is going to guarantee give you a missiles. So you want to be weaving it in, getting nether precision benefits, and getting as many clear casts, squeezing as many clear cast procs out during your soul window. That's another tip for you right there. Now that we've gone over the basics, I'm gonna do my rotation, do it in slow-mo, and commentate over it. So because of the way your modifiers work and charges and all of that, there's no actual quote-unquote rotation. It's going to be more flow-based. And also, depending on if you're getting trained or not, that changes everything as well, because if you're not getting trained and you're able to cast more arcane blasts, that's going to make your output way higher. And you're also going to get more benefit from playing Lay Drinker. But I'm going to just try to explain the general gist of what I'm thinking every moment. I've tried to do this before where I commentate over 50% game speed, but it's been kind of difficult. So hopefully it goes okay this time. Let's see here. So casting Arcane Blast is really good because Arcane Blast actually hits quite hard now. So if you have 4 charges and you can free cast Arcane Blast, it's great way to dish out damage and also generate more clear casts. So right here, I'm gonna blast. I'm 1 away from an intuition. As you can see, let me pull up my epic pen. I'm 1 away from an intuition, and I'm actually 1 away from a burden right here. So I cast an Arcane Blast to proc it. So right here, I have a burden and an intuition. Let's see what I do. I missiles next to get my nether precision up and 10 stacks of harmony. So right here, I have 10 stacks harmony, burden, intuition, and nether precision. So this is a no-brainer Flux Barrage. Flux Barrage. And I actually palm blasted there as well. Let's go back a bit. Remember how I talked about the double dip combo? So this is actually such a good window to do this combo. So right here, I will wait a second. By the way, this is really important. If your missiles are in the air and you flux too early, your flux will go on the target for 0.1 seconds and it'll be instant consumed by a 1 tick of missiles, which is awful because you're getting like 200k damage extra from that. So you want to make sure, I wait a second here. You see that? It's like you wait 0.5 and then you flux, barrage, and I actually palm blast here to get the double dip from that flux. Keep in mind this double dipping is really good, but you need to be at a specific distance from your target. I think you got to be like at least 20 yards because barrage has the travel time. And if you're too close to the target, the barrage will connect and consume the flux off of the target before your palm blast goes off. So this is a double dip combo you can do, but you have to be, I think, around 20 yards away from the target at least. But again, this is just beautiful because I have 4 modifiers up, and every time you touch, you get a Lay Drinker, which buffs your blast. So this is how you do big combos and one-shot somebody. So now I'm going to barrage again. At this point, I don't have that much going on. I'm going to orb to get charges, hard cast a blast here to get into a burden. I'm going to hard cast a blast on the burden, missiles now to generate harmony stacks and my nether precision. And I will Evo now because I have Evo in Surge. I'm going to Evo into a Surge. I'm 1 away, 2 away from an intuition, so I'll missile once. And then I think I missile, yeah, missile again to get into intuition. So now I have an intuition, nether precision, glorious that I procced earlier, and 10 stacks harmony with Surge up. So this is would be a beautiful time to flux barrage. I wait a 0.5 right there. I cancel my missiles early. It's good to cancel missiles early to like try to do kicks. If you get kicked there and your intuition falls off, that's awful, right? So then I flux barrage that into another barrage since it refunds my charges. I don't have a palm there to double dip, unfortunately. Hard cast blasts, if possible. Of course, if you're getting trained at this moment, I might just be running around, spam barraging everything to slow them with Chrono Shift and get my tempos up while spell stealing trash buffs. But in the scenario where I can free cast, you know, and I can shift my CDs back. I do have a burden here, and my Surge is still up. I cast missiles. I clip it. And then here, I'm doing a double dip combo here. So now I'm fluxing and doing my second double dip combo, which is hard cast blast, if you can hard cast, and chaining it with a pre-queued barrage. So this is a burden, blast, Lay Drinker, into an instant barrage on the glorious, which I'll have 4 charges after that because it refunds, and I have an intuition now, so I'll do the intuition barrage as well. In a perfect world right there, I would do this combo with I'm going back a bit here. I would have waited a bit for the intuition to proc, but I mean, I think it ended up proccing early here. I was still 5 casts away from it, as you can see. So, but yeah, I'm doing the flux, hard cast, burden blast into glorious barrage combo there for the double dip. Now I'm in my soul window, so I'm going to missiles, barrage to get 3 clear casts. And then right here, I still have 3 seconds left on soul. So I probably end up missiling twice here and then barraging again. And missile twice and then barrage to refresh my clear cast. Because your goal is because during your soul window, you can spam barrage and each barrage gives you a clear cast stack. And you want to squeeze out missiles during that time to generate harmonies and get usage of your nether precisions. But you just want to make sure at the end of your soul, as it ends, you have refreshed 3 clear casts because now you have more missiles to work with. Your goal is to try to not be too clear cast starved, right? And clear cast has an 8% chance to proc, an 8% chance to proc off of all your arcane abilities. So let's see what happens here. Go to missiles, hardcast blast instead of 4 charges. And right here, I was so close to an intuition, so I'm actually holding off on glorious barraging here. So because you're trying to stack your modifiers, I'm gonna actually palm blast there to get into the intuition. And then I think I probably flux barrage palm blast here for the double dip. Yeah, and I use my second stack of palm to get the double dip right there with the lay drinker. Now I'm in a burden. I'm going to missiles to get some charges from high voltage, get my nether precision up, hardcast a blast, barrage. That's kind of like the double dip combo, but without the flux there because it's on cooldown. I'm 2 away from an intuition. Let's see what I do. Hardcast blast. Blast. I'm in intuition now. I'm going to missiles. I blasted 1 more time there to get into the burden. Now I have missiles, and now I have 10 stacks harmony, nether precision, intuition, and burden. So generally, you don't want to burden a barrage because again, it doesn't refund charges. The intuition and glorious does, but right here, because I have an intuition, it's okay to flux barrage here. I flux barrage into another barrage since I don't have palm blast a double dip. Keep up your tempos as much as possible. As you can see, I'm gonna hardcast the blast with 4 charges to consume my lay drinkers. One thing you can do here. Sometimes if you're in a burden or close to a burden, but you're much further from an intuition, you can actually spam blast a little bit to get to the intuition, because intuition works on all arcane spells, whereas burden and blast proccing is only going to work off barrages and blasts. So like this is a great example. I'm a bit away from an intuition, so I'm just going to blast to generate charges and get to an intuition, and it procs 2 stacks early there. So, I mean, I don't have flux here to flux it, but that's just a good example of getting into intuition. And also, that's only if you don't have clear cast as well, because it's going to consume your clear cast and double echo the explosion. So if you don't have clear cast and you're close to an intuition, feel free to explode just to get to it. But again, like I'm keeping an eye on this a lot and this a lot while tracking my tempo, so that you're generally going to be looking at these a lot, because like nether precision, you have it as soon as you missiles, right? So you're playing around these 2 a lot, and then obviously your charges too, your arcane charges. But yeah, that was a basic breakdown of your mindset when you're trying to dish out damages or arcane. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Again, all my weak auras are available in my Discord. The link will be down below. I'll try my best to answer questions. And if there's any ways you guys know of double dipping, aside from the 2 combos I went over, let me know, because I'd love to try out new things and figure out ways to min-max my damage even further. But yeah, good luck out there. Arcane is really fun, and it's S+ tier at the moment. If you know how to play it properly, this can do some crazy one-shots. I would highly recommend it. It's some of the most fun playing the game ever. So I'll see you guys out there, and yeah, good luck.